The night they cast me out with just a backpack, thinking I'd crumble in the rain, was the same night my lottery ticket turned me into a $150 million 0 cents millionaire before dawn. The rain was relentless, hammering Portland's streets like it had a personal vendetta against me. I was 30 years old, dragging a battered backpack through a storm, my sneakers squelching with every step. 24 hours ago, I'd had a home, a car, a family, however dysfunctional. Now I was homeless, carless, and utterly alone, with $127 0 cents in my wallet and a maxed out credit card. Oh, and a lottery ticket tucked in my pocket, bought on a whim with my late grandmother Evelyn's numbers. That ticket would turn out to be my salvation, but I didn't know it yet. All I knew was the cold biting through my thin jacket, the weight of betrayal crushing my chest, and the terror of a night that kept throwing punches I wasn't ready to dodge. Let me back up. My name's Emily Carter, and I'm an artist. Or at least, I'm trying to be. Sculpting is my oxygen, the one thing that makes sense in a world that's always felt a little too tight for me. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, in a family that might as well have been cut from a corporate handbook. My father, Charles, is a corporate lawyer, the kind who wears tailored suits and thinks success is measured in billable hours. My mother, Diane, is a tech executive, all about KPIs and stock options. Then there's my brother Nathan, a hedge fund analyst who probably dreams in spreadsheets. And me? I'm the oddball who'd rather spend hours carving driftwood and welding scrap metal into sculptures than chasing a corner office. To them, I was a glitch in their perfect system, a dreamer who'd never amount to anything unless I traded my chisels for a law degree. Last night started like any other Tuesday, except it wasn't. I'd been psyching myself up for weeks to tell my parents I was done with their version of my life. I'd been working as a paralegal at a soulless firm in downtown Portland, filing papers and fetching coffee for lawyers who treated me like furniture. Every night, I'd come home to my parents' sprawling house in the West Hills, where I'd been living to save money and lose myself in my art. My Etsy shop was picking up steam. Small orders for my sculptures were trickling in, and a local gallery had even asked to showcase a piece. I'd found a loft apartment in the Pearl District, a gritty but artsy corner of the city. It wasn't much, just a one-bedroom with exposed brick and creaky floors, but it was mine. Or it would be, if I could scrape together the deposit. I'd crunched the numbers. If I kept my day job for 6 more months while scaling up my art sales, I could quit and go all in on sculpting. I was ready to tell my parents I was moving out and chasing my dream full time. I thought, naively, that they'd see my progress and maybe, just maybe, be proud. Dinner was a battlefield before I even opened my mouth. We were sitting at the polished mahogany table, the kind that screams old money. Mom was slicing her grilled salmon with surgical precision, and Dad was scrolling through his phone, probably checking case law. Nathan was there too, visiting from Seattle, looking smug in his designer polo. I took a deep breath, my rehearsed speech ready. "I've made a decision," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I am quitting my job at the firm, my art's taking off, and I've found an apartment. I'm going to focus on sculpting full-time." The silence was deafening. Dad's fork froze halfway to his mouth, Mom's eyes narrowed, and Nathan snorted, like I'd just announced I was joining a circus. Then the explosion came. Dad's face turned the color of the Merlot in his glass. "You're throwing away a perfectly good career for what? Playing with junk in the garage?" His voice was a low growl. the kind he used to intimidate junior associates. Mom chimed in, her tone colder, more calculated. Emily, we've supported you long enough, living here rent-free while you tinker with your little projects. It's time to grow up. You're not a child anymore. I tried to explain. God, I tried. I pulled out my laptop, showed them the Etsy sales, the gallery inquiry, the spreadsheet I'd made projecting my income. This isn't a hobby, I said. I sold $2,000, 0 cents worth of pieces last month. A boutique in Seattle wants to carry my work. I'm building something real. But they weren't listening. Dad scoffed. $2,000? That's pocket change, Emily. You think that's a business? It's a garage sale. Mom's words cut deeper. Sweetheart, real artists get discovered young. They don't need to mooch off their parents at 30. Then I saw it, a printout of my business plan, sitting on the counter. My private business plan, the one I'd saved in a password-protected folder on my laptop. Next to it was my journal, the one where I wrote about my fears, my dreams, my late-night doubts about ever being enough. You hacked my laptop? I asked, my voice shaking with fury. Mom had the nerve to look embarrassed, but Dad doubled down. When you live under our roof, your business is our business. And frankly, your little diary doesn't inspire confidence. It's full of pipe dreams and whining. That was the moment I felt something snap inside me. My journal wasn't just paper. It was my heart, my soul, the place where I poured out everything I couldn't say out loud. They'd violated it, dissected it like it was evidence in one of Dad's cases. You read my journal? I whispered, tears burning my eyes. How could you? Mom tried to soften it. We were worried, Emily. You've been so secretive, staying up all night with your projects. She couldn't even call them sculptures. Dad's ultimatum came like a guillotine. Enough is enough. You keep your job at the firm, treat this art nonsense like the hobby it is, or you're out tonight. Nathan, who'd been silent, finally piped up. Maybe Dad's right, Em. You've always been different, but different doesn't pay the bills. His betrayal hurt almost as much as my parents. Growing up, he'd been my ally, sneaking me art supplies when Mom threw out my junk. Now he was just another suit, siding with the enemy. I didn't beg. I didn't scream. I just nodded, walked upstairs to my childhood bedroom, and started packing. The backpack was a gift from Evelyn, my grandmother, who'd been the only one to believe in me. For adventures, she'd said when I turned 25, her eyes twinkling. Some adventure this was. I had to choose what to take. A few clothes, my sketchbook, a handful of sculpting tools. Every item I left behind felt like a piece of myself. Every item I packed felt like admitting defeat. As I zipped up the backpack, I remembered it was Tuesday, lottery night. Evelyn and I used to check the numbers together, a silly ritual we'd started over coffee at Rosie's diner. She'd buy 2 tickets, one for her, one for me, and wink, saying, "Dreams need a little magic, Em." After she died 2 years ago, I kept the tradition alive, using the numbers from the notebook she left me. I pulled out my phone to check the lottery app, but it was down for maintenance. Even that small comfort was gone. I set my alarm for 6 a.m., crawled into bed, and cried myself to sleep next to my half-packed life. The storm hit harder that night, as if the universe was mocking me. Dad was waiting at the front door when I came downstairs, arms crossed like a prison guard. Mom hovered in the kitchen, her face a mix of guilt and resolve. Neither offered to help with my bag. Your phone stays on our plan until the end of the month, Dad said, all business. After that, you're on your own. Mom made one last stab at control. Nathan's friend at the law firm says he can get you an interview. It's not too late, Emily. I didn't respond. I just nodded and stepped into the rain. The door slammed behind me, the lock clicking with finality. I was officially homeless. The rain soaked through my jacket in seconds, chilling me to the bone. I pulled out my phone and called Sarah, my best friend since high school. What's wrong?" she answered, her voice muffled by airport noise. "My parents kicked me out," I said, trying not to sob. "I need a place to crash." Her voice broke. "Oh, God, I'm so sorry. I'm in Seattle for a work conference and my apartment's still under repair from that pipe burst. Stay at my place anyway. There's a key under the planter." But I couldn't. Her apartment was a moldy mess, uninhabitable for weeks. I tried 3 more friends. One was out of town, another was crashing with her boyfriend in a shoebox studio, and the third had in-laws visiting. By the 5th call, the rejections felt like knives. With nowhere to go, I started walking toward downtown. The backpack straps dug into my shoulders, and the rain turned my jeans into heavy, cold weights. Cars sped by, splashing dirty water onto me. I must have looked like a drowned rat, mascara streaking down my face. Then it happened. My first brush with real danger that night. A black SUV swerved onto the sidewalk, its headlights blinding me. I dove into an alley, my heart pounding as the car screeched back onto the road. Was it an accident? Or was someone targeting me? I didn't wait to find out. I kept moving, my breath ragged, my hands shaking. The alley was a mistake. It was dark, narrow, and reeked of garbage. Halfway through, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see 3 figures, drunk by the sound of their slurred laughter, stumbling toward me. "Hey, sweetheart, you lost?" one called, his voice thick with menace. I clutched my backpack tighter, my only weapon a small sculpting knife inside. "Leave me alone," I said, trying to sound tough. They laughed, closing in. My pulse spiked. I was ready to bolt when a homeless man, pushing a cart, appeared at the alley's mouth. "Back off," he shouted, waving a flashlight. The drunks muttered curses but scattered. I thanked him, my voice trembling, and kept moving. 40 minutes later, I reached the Seaside Inn, a seedy motel on the edge of downtown. Its neon sign flickered like a dying star, but the vacancy light was on. The lobby smelled of stale cigarettes and cheap pine cleaner. Behind the counter was Clara, an older woman with kind eyes and gray hair in a messy bun. "Rough night, honey?" she asked, taking in my soaked clothes and red-rimmed eyes. "You could say that," I muttered. "How much for a room?" She quoted $85.00 plus tax, and I handed over most of my cash, leaving me with $42.00. She gave me a key for room 7. "Breakfast's at 6, she said. "Coffee's not half bad." The room was a time capsule of bad decisions. Faded wallpaper, a lumpy bed, a TV that probably hadn't worked since the 90s, but it was dry, and that was enough. I peeled off my wet clothes and stood under a scalding shower, letting the water wash away the tears I couldn't stop. I sank to the floor, hugging my knees, sobbing until my throat burned. Through the thin walls, I heard Clara arguing with her husband, Tom. "We can't pay the electric bill and the mortgage, Tom. We're drowning." Their desperation grounded me. A reminder, I wasn't the only one fighting to stay afloat. Wrapped in a scratchy towel, I sat on the bed and took stock. My savings account had $1,892.00 scraped together from art sales. My sculpting tools, the few I'd brought, were worth maybe $800, 0 cents if I sold them, but that would kill my dream. My phone buzzed with an email from the loft's landlord. Excited to show you the place tomorrow at 3 p.m., a place I couldn't afford now. I opened my sketchbook and wrote a list. Find a couch to crash on. Get a temp job. Waitressing, anything. Save enough to rent a room. Keep sculpting, no matter what. Each word felt like a surrender, but I whispered to Evelyn's memory, I'm not giving up. I'm just surviving. Then at 2 a.m., the fire alarm blared. I bolted upright, heart racing, and grabbed my backpack. The hallway was chaos. Guests stumbling out, Clara shouting to evacuate. Outside, the rain was still pouring, and I stood shivering in my damp clothes, clutching my bag. It was a false alarm, a faulty system, but it took an hour to get back inside. By the time I collapsed on the bed, I was too exhausted to cry. My last thought was of Evelyn, her warm smile, her belief in me. I'm trying, I whispered. I'm really trying. I woke to the harsh beep of my phone at 7:30 a.m., disoriented by the unfamiliar room. The rain had stopped, but the gray sky outside matched my mood. Notifications lit up my screen. Probably Sarah checking in, or maybe, foolishly, I hope my parents had reconsidered. But one message stopped me cold. The lottery app back online with a single line. Congratulations, you've won. I laughed, bitter and skeptical, probably a $5 0 cents prize. But when I opened the app, my world tilted. The numbers 8, 17, 23, 42, 54, 9 matched Evelyn's. Every single one. I fumbled for the ticket in my backpack, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. The numbers stared back at me, undeniable. I checked the official lottery site, then again. The jackpot, $150 million, 0 cents. After taxes, the lump sum was $62 million, 0 cents. This isn't real, I whispered to the empty room. This doesn't happen to people like me. I called the lottery commission, my voice barely steady. A woman answered, calm and professional. State Lottery Commission, how may I help you? I stammered, I think I won, but I need to know it's not a mistake. She asked for the ticket's barcode and numbers. After an agonizing pause, she said, Ms. Carter, I can confirm you're holding the winning ticket for last night's Powerball. Congratulations. I couldn't breathe. The room spun, and I sank to the floor, head between my knees. What do I do now? I gasped. She walked me through the claim process, urging me to sign the ticket and get a lawyer. I scribbled notes, barely processing her words. When I hung up, I sat frozen, staring at the ticket. Yesterday, I'd been counting coins for a motel room. Now, I could buy the motel, the block, the whole damn city. A laugh burst out of me, wild and unhinged. It was too much, too absurd. Someone knocked on the door. You okay in there? Clara's voice laced with worry. I opened the door, still in yesterday's clothes, hair a mess, eyes wild. I won, I whispered, her brow furrowed. Won what, honey? The lottery. The Powerball, $150 million, 0 cents. The words felt surreal, like they belonged to someone else. Clara's eyes widened, then softened. She pulled me into the room and shut the door. Breathe, Emily. This is big, really big. I told her everything. Evelyn's numbers, the ritual, the notebook. Tears spilled as I admitted, yesterday I was homeless. My parents threw me out because they think my art's a joke. Clara squeezed my hand. And now you're a millionaire. Sounds like your grandma still got your back. Her words broke me. I sobbed, the weight of the past day crashing down. Clara stayed, patting my back until I could breathe again. When I calmed down, a strange clarity hit. I need a lawyer, I said, and a financial advisor, and I need to keep this quiet. Clara nodded. My cousin Rachel's a lawyer. Sharp as a tack, discreet as they come. Want me to call her? I nodded, grateful. Then an idea struck. Clara, how much to book every room in this motel for 2 weeks? Her jaw dropped. All 15? That's about $10,000, 0 cents. Why? Privacy, I said. And I overheard you and Tom last night. You need help. Let me do this. She blushed, embarrassed I'd heard their struggles. You don't have to. I want to, I interrupted. Consider it my first act as a millionaire. By noon, I'd met Rachel, a no-nonsense lawyer with a warm smile. She didn't blink at my disheveled appearance, just got to work. We'll set up a blind trust to claim the winnings anonymously, she said, sliding papers across her desk. It's legal in Oregon, and it's your best shot at staying under the radar. We mapped out a plan. Take the $62 million, 0 cents, lump sum, invest 70%, cover taxes, and keep $500,000, 0 cents, liquid for immediate needs. 500,000 is liquid? I asked Izzy. Rachel smiled. For someone with your wealth, it's pocket change. Then came the bombshell. As I signed the trust papers, Rachel's phone buzzed. She frowned. A news van's outside the motel. Someone tipped off the press about a local winner. My stomach dropped. Already? How? She shook her head. Could be a clerk, a neighbor, anyone. Stay low. Don't leave the motel until I secure the claim. I nodded, fear creeping in. The world was already closing in on my secret. Back at the Seaside Inn, I stayed in my room, blinds drawn. Clara brought me coffee and a bagel, her way of checking in. No one's getting past me, she said, winking. But the fear lingered. Who else knew? My parents? Nathan? The thought of them finding out before I was ready made my skin crawl. I opened my laptop, half expecting to see my name plastered online. Instead, I found an email from the Pearl District landlord. Looking forward to tomorrow's viewing, a place I could now buy outright. But money couldn't erase the past 24 hours. The betrayal, the danger, the crushing weight of being cast out. As night fell, I sat on the lumpy motel bed, the lottery ticket in my hand, now signed and laminated for safety. Evelyn's voice echoed in my mind. Keep dreaming big, my star. I'd lost everything, my family, my security, my sense of home. But I'd gained something too, a chance to build a life on my terms. The question was, what came next? Would the money save me, or would it paint a target on my back? As the rain started again outside, I knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning. The Seaside Inn's flickering neon sign buzzed outside my window, a mocking reminder of how far I'd fallen in just one night. I was Emily Carter, 30 years old, sitting cross-legged on a lumpy motel bed in Portland, Oregon, clutching a lottery ticket worth $150 million, 0 cents. The rain had stopped, but the storm inside me raged on. 24 hours ago, my parents had kicked me out, my car had been stolen at gunpoint, and I'd dodged drunks and a rogue SUV in a night that felt like a twisted test of survival. Now I was a millionaire, on paper at least, but the weight of that truth was suffocating. My phone glowed with the lottery app's confirmation, and my hands trembled as I stared at the numbers. 8, 17, 23, 42, 54. Grandma Evelyn's numbers, her final gift to me. But with every heartbeat, a new fear crept in. What if this fortune wasn't a blessing, but a curse? Clara, the motel's owner, had been my anchor since I'd blurted out my win that morning. Her kind eyes and no-nonsense demeanor grounded me when I felt like I was floating away. She'd called her cousin, Rachel, a lawyer, who'd swooped in with a plan to secure my winnings through an anonymous trust. Rachel's words echoed in my head. "Stay low, Emily. The press is already sniffing around." A news van had parked outside the motel, its crew milling about like vultures circling a I'd booked every room in the Seaside Inn for 2 weeks, dropping $10,000, 0 cents, to keep prying eyes out and to help Clara and her husband Tom, who were drowning in debt. It was my first act as a millionaire, but it didn't feel heroic. It felt desperate, like barricading a door against an unseen enemy. I hadn't slept since the fire alarm fiasco last night, when a faulty system had forced me into the freezing rain, clutching my backpack like it was my lifeline. My body ached, my mind raced, and every creak in the motel's thin walls made me jump. I kept the blinds drawn, the room dim except for the glow of my laptop. I was supposed to meet Rachel again tomorrow to finalize the trust, but the hours until then stretched like an eternity. I opened my sketchbook, hoping to calm my nerves by drawing, but my pencil hovered uselessly over the page. Instead, I wrote a new list. Sign the ticket, meet Rachel, get a financial advisor, move to the loft. Don't tell anyone. That last one was underlined twice. I trusted Clara, but the world beyond this room felt like a minefield. My phone buzzed, snapping me out of my thoughts. It was Sarah, my best friend, texting from Seattle. I'm freaking out. Just got your voicemail. Are you okay? I'm stuck here till Sunday, but I'll come straight back. Crash at my place, we'll be damned. I smiled, a flicker of warmth in the cold void of my chest. Sarah had been my rock since high school, the one who'd sneak into art galleries with me when my parents forbade it, but her apartment was uninhabitable, and I couldn't risk dragging her into this mess. Not yet. I typed back, "I'm safe. Found a motel. Will call soon. Love you." I hit send, then silenced my phone. I couldn't handle more questions, not when I barely had answers myself. A knock at the door made my heart lurch. "Emily? It's Clara." I exhaled, unlocking the door to let her in. She carried a tray with a turkey sandwich and a mug of coffee, her face etched with concern. "You look like you haven't eaten in days," she said, setting the tray on the rickety nightstand. "I'm fine," I lied, but my stomach growled, betraying me. She raised an eyebrow. "Eat. And listen, that news van's still out there. And now there's a guy in a cheap suit poking around, asking if we've seen a young woman with a backpack." I told him to get lost, but he's persistent. My blood ran cold. A suit? Like a reporter? Clara shook her head. "Didn't look like one. More like, I don't know, a private investigator? Shifty eyes, notepad, the works." I sank onto the bed, my mind racing. Who would hire a PI to find me? My parents? They'd kicked me out with no remorse, but maybe they'd had second thoughts. Or worse, smelled money. Or was it someone else? Someone who'd caught wind of the jack. "What did you tell him?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Clara crossed her arms. "That we're fully booked and he's trespassing. But, honey, you need to be careful. Money like yours, it brings out the worst in people. She wasn't wrong. I'd read stories about lottery winners, families torn apart, strangers showing up with sob stories, even winners targeted by criminals. I'd thought those were exaggerations, cautionary tales. Now they felt like prophecies. Thanks, Clara, I said, forcing a smile. I'll stay inside. She nodded, but her eyes lingered on me like she wanted to say more. You're not alone in this, okay? Tom and we've got your back. Her words were a lifeline, but they couldn't quiet the paranoia clawing at me. As she left, I locked the door, double-checking the deadbolt. I ate the sandwich mechanically, barely tasting it, and sipped the coffee, now lukewarm. My laptop was still open, and I refreshed the lottery's official site, half expecting the numbers to vanish, a cruel glitch. They didn't. The jackpot was real, and so was the danger. I Googled lottery winner safety tips, my fingers trembling. The results were grim. Get a lawyer. Don't tell anyone. Change your number. Move. One article warned of sudden wealth syndrome, a psychological spiral from the stress of instant riches. I laughed bitterly. I didn't need a syndrome to feel like I was losing my mind. Then a new fear hit. My bank account. Rachel had warned me to secure my finances, but I hadn't thought to check my measly $1,892.00 savings. I logged into my bank app, and my heart stopped. A pending transaction, an unauthorized withdrawal of $1,500.00 flashed red. No, 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 I muttered, clicking frantically. The details showed a phishing attempt, a fake lottery verification email I hadn't even seen. I called the bank, my voice shaking as I explained. The rep was calm, too calm, assuring me they'd freeze the account and investigate. But it's likely gone, ma'am, she said. These scams target winners fast. I hung up, nausea rising. Someone knew. Someone was already after my money, and I hadn't even claimed it yet. I paced the room, the walls closing in, the news van, the PI, the hack. It was too much, too soon. I needed to move, to act, but I was trapped in this dingy motel, a sitting duck. I grabbed my backpack, checking its contents for the 100th time. Sketchbook, sculpting tools, Evelyn's lottery notebook, the ticket. The notebook felt heavier than it should, its worn leather cover hiding more than numbers. I flipped it open, rereading Evelyn's inscription. Keep dreaming big, my star. But on the next page, tucked between number sets, was something I'd overlooked. A cryptic note in her elegant script. Trust the numbers, but beware the shadows they cast. What the hell did that mean? Was it a warning? A riddle? Evelyn had always been whimsical, but this felt deliberate, like she'd known I'd need it now. A loud bang outside made me jump. I peered through the blinds, my heart in my throat. The news van was still there, but a pickup truck had backfired, its driver cursing as he popped the hood. False alarm, but my nerves were shot. I sank to the floor, the notebook in my lap, and tried to breathe. Evelyn's words haunted me. Shadows. Was she warning me about people like my parents, who discarded me when I didn't fit their mold, or something darker, something tied to the money itself? I didn't know, but the uncertainty was a knife in my gut. The next morning, Rachel arrived at the motel, her sleek SUV a stark contrast to the crumbling lot. She wore a tailored blazer, her dark hair pulled back, exuding confidence I envied. "We've got a plan," she said, spreading documents on the bed. The trust is ready. You sign these and we claim the prize tomorrow. I've also lined up a financial advisor, James, who specializes in sudden wealth. He's discreet, vetted, and ready to meet. I nodded, scanning the papers, but my mind was elsewhere. Rachel, someone tried to hack my bank account last night, and Clara saw a PI sniffing around. Is this normal? Her jaw tightened. It's not uncommon, but it's alarming. The hack's likely a generic scam. Lottery leaks happen fast. The PI, though, that's personal. Any guesses? Who'd want to find you? I hesitated, then spilled it all. My parents' betrayal, their invasion of my privacy, Nathan's complicity. They kicked me out, but they're not above tracking me if they think there's something in it for them. Rachel's eyes narrowed. We'll handle it. For now, change your phone number. Use a burner if you have to. And don't leave this motel. I've hired security to watch the perimeter. Security? Burners? It sounded like a spy novel, not my life. But I nodded, signing the trust papers with a shaky hand. Rachel gathered them, then paused. Emily, this money, it's power, but it's also a magnet for trouble. Stay sharp, okay? Her words echoed Evelyn's note, and a chill ran through me. As she left, promising to call later, I felt more alone than ever. The motel room with its stained carpets and flickering lights was my fortress, but it was That afternoon, Clara knocked again, her face pale. Emily, you need to see this. She handed me a crumpled flyer, slipped under the motel's front door. It was a grainy photo of me, taken yesterday, drenched and dragging my backpack, with text scrawled in red marker. $10,000, 0 cents reward for info on this woman. Call 503 XXXX. My stomach dropped. Who's doing this? I whispered. Clara shook her head. No idea, but it's not the news crew. They're still out there, oblivious. I tore down the other flyers, but more could be up around town. I thanked her, my voice hollow, and locked the door again. The flyer stared at me from the bed, my own face, a stranger's. Was it my parents? A scammer? Or someone from my past? Someone I'd forgotten? But who hadn't forgotten me? I called Rachel, forwarding her a photo of the flyer. This is escalating, she said, her voice tight. I'm sending a private investigator of our own to trace that number. Stay put, Emily. We're moving up the claim to tonight. Tonight? The speed terrified me, but so did waiting. I packed my backpack, ready to bolt if needed, and waited for Rachel's call. The hours crawled by, each one heavier than the last. I sketched in my book, trying to anchor myself, but my lines were jagged, chaotic. Evelyn's note kept circling in my mind. Beware the shadows. I was starting to see them everywhere. At 6 p.m. my phone rang. An unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Emily Carter. A man's voice rasped, low and unfamiliar. Who is this? I demanded, my heart pounding. Someone who knows what you're hiding. That ticket's worth millions, and you're not the only one who wants it. I froze, my breath catching. How do you know about that? He laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. You're not as invisible as you think. Meet me at the old warehouse on Front Avenue, midnight. Bring the ticket, or things get ugly. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my hands shaking. Was this a bluff? A trap? I called Rachel, my voice trembling as I recounted the call. Don't move, she ordered. It's likely a scam, but we're not taking chances. My PI's tracing the call and security's doubling up. We're claiming the prize now. Remote filing, emergency protocol. Stay in your room, lights off, door locked. I obeyed, plunging the room into darkness. The only light, my phone's glow. I clutched my backpack, the ticket inside, and waited. Every noise outside a potential threat. At 9 p.m., Rachel texted, "Claim filed. Funds transfer initiated. Stay put." Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. A new sound came from outside, glass shattering, followed by shouts. I peeked through the blinds, my heart in my throat. Clara was in the parking lot, yelling at a man in a hoodie who'd smashed a motel window. The news van's crew was filming, their lights blinding. Security tackled the man, but he was screaming, "She's in there! The lottery girl!" My blood ran cold. How did he know? Who was feeding this frenzy? Clara burst into my room minutes later, her face flushed. "You okay? That idiot was trying to break in, probably after the reward. Security's got him, but the press is losing it. We need to get you out of here." I nodded, numb, and grabbed my backpack. Rachel arrived, her SUV idling outside. "We're moving you to a safe house," she said, her voice calm but urgent. "The funds are secure, but you're not safe here." I followed her, keeping my head down as we dodged the news crew's cameras. Clara hugged me, whispering, "You're gonna be okay, kid. Call me when you're settled." The safe house was a nondescript condo in Lake Oswego, 20 minutes from Portland. It was sterile, furnished like a model home, but it had locks, alarms, and a security guard named Mike who looked like he could bench press a car. Rachel stayed with me, briefing me on next steps. Meet James, the financial advisor, tomorrow. Change my identity if needed, monitor the PI and hacker threats. "You're in control, Emily," she said. But I didn't feel it. The money was mine, but so was the danger. That night, alone in the condo, I couldn't sleep. I opened Evelyn's notebook again, searching for answers. Tucked in the back was a folded letter I'd never seen, sealed with wax. My hands trembled as I broke it open. Evelyn's handwriting filled the page. "My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, the numbers have found you. They're your freedom, but they come with a price. Trust sparingly, love fiercely, and never let them take your art. There's more to this than you know. Ask Clara about the summer of '89. I stared, my mind reeling. Clara? The summer of '89? What did Evelyn mean, and why had she hidden this letter? The next day, I met James, the silver-haired advisor with a reassuring smile. He laid out a plan: 70% in diversified investments, taxes paid $500,000, 0 cents liquid. "You're set for life," he said, but his words felt hollow. I told him about the flyer, the call, the break-in. His face darkened. "This is serious. I've seen winners lose everything to greed, family, friends, strangers. We'll set up firewalls, offshore accounts, whatever it takes." I nodded, but my thoughts were on Clara and Evelyn's letter. What was their connection? I called Clara, my burner phone's screen cold against my ear. "Clara, it's Emily. I need to ask you something weird. Did you know my grandma Evelyn in the summer of '89? There was a long pause. "How'd you know about that?" she asked, her voice low. We worked together at a gallery in Portland. She was my mentor, taught me everything about art. But there was trouble. Bad people, money owed. Why are you asking?" I told her about the letter, the cryptic warning. Clara sighed. "Evelyn had enemies, Emily. Folks who thought she owed them for her success. If your win's tied to her numbers, be careful. Those shadows might still be out there." Her words hit like a punch. Evelyn's past, my present, were they colliding? I thanked Clara, promising to stay in touch, and hung up, my mind spinning. The PI, the hacker, the caller. Were they random or part of something bigger? I moved to the condo's window, staring at the quiet street below. A black sedan idled across the road, its driver hidden. Was it security or someone else? I backed away, my heart racing. Days blurred into weeks. I leased a loft in the Pearl District, paying 2 years up front, and filled it with sculpting tools, a new laptop, and clothes that didn't smell of motel despair. Rachel's PI traced the flyer's number to a burner phone, a dead end. The hacker was linked to a Russian syndicate targeting lottery winners. Terrifying, but impersonal. The warehouse caller never resurfaced, but I couldn't shake his voice. I launched Evelyn's Vision, my rebranded art brand, pouring my fear into sculptures that went viral after a Portland influencer posted them. Galleries from Seattle to New York called, orders flooding in. But success came with new threats. Another night, my email pinged with a message from an unknown sender. Nice loft, Emily. Shame if something happened to it. Attached was a photo of my building, taken from the street. I called Rachel, who sent security to sweep the place. Nothing was found, but I stopped sleeping. Then, a former co-worker, Lisa, jealous of my sudden fame, leaked my identity to a tabloid. Headlines screamed, "Portland paralegal hits $150, 0 cents M. Jackpot." The media swarmed my loft, forcing me to hide with Mike's help. I changed my number again, cut off social media, and felt the walls closing in. The worst came when my parents showed up, tracked by a PI they'd hired. I was in my loft, unpacking clay, when the doorman buzzed. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter are here," he said. My heart sank. I let them up, steeling myself. Mom rushed in, tears in her eyes. "Emily, we were so worried." Dad stood back, eyeing the loft's high ceilings, calculating. "How'd you afford this?" he asked. I faced them, my voice steady. "You kicked me out, left me in the rain with nothing. That night, I won the Powerball. $150 million, 0 cents. Evelyn's numbers. Their faces, shock, greed, guilt, were a twisted mirror of my pain. I laid it out. Their betrayal, the journal, the smashed sculpture. "You thought I'd fail," I said, "but I'm standing here, richer than you'll ever be." Mom sobbed. "We made a mistake." Dad tried his lawyer charm. "We're proud, Emily. Let's move forward." I laughed, bitter. "Proud? You don't know me. You never did." I invited them to a family dinner. A test, but set boundaries. Respect me, or stay out of my life. They left, dazed, and I exhaled, lighter but not free. I hosted that dinner, Nathan included, who pushed for investment deals I shut down. Mom brought photos, a fragile peace offering. Dad asked about my art, his interest clumsy but real. I founded the Evelyn Carter Foundation, funding artists like me, and anonymously paid off the Seaside Inn's mortgage. Clara cried when she got the letter, calling to thank whoever did it. I smiled, keeping my secret. 4 months later, I met Lucas, a curator, at a foundation auction. He bid on my sculpture, unaware of my story, and we bonded over art. His easy laugh, his genuine awe at my work, was a balm. At Thanksgiving in my loft, my family showed glimmers of change. Mom's respect, Dad's restraint, Nathan's painter girlfriend, a foundation grantee. But the past lingered, a shadow I couldn't outrun. A year later, at Evelyn's Visions gallery opening, I stood among my sculptures, critics buzzing, Lucas at my side. My parents were there, awkward but present. I'd built a life. Art, love, purpose. on my terms. Evelyn's letter had been right. The numbers were freedom, but the shadows were real. I'd faced them, hackers, PIs, vandals, my own family, and won. The money hadn't saved me. My grit, my art had. As I touched a sculpture, Evelyn's voice whispered, "You did it, my star." I smiled, tears falling, ready for whatever came next.